Hi, it's Kristen. I'm here from my home office. Please forgive the mess when I have been doing a bunch of work on my house recently and moved all the things from the hallway that I didn't know where to put. I shoved them in here, so I haven't had a chance to go through and clean them. So pretend you can't see it. I'm trying to block it, but pretend you can't see the mess behind me. But anyway, here we are on Reclaim Your Holiday, day 6. And today's the day that we are going to map your grid. So I have been asking you over the last 5 days to think about the 5 universal themes of the holiday season. And those are magic, belonging, generosity, faith, and tradition. And I asked you to give them each a number so that we could put them on a grid and I could talk to you about how to use this to help to reclaim your holiday. And also, I think I mentioned that it's also a way to look at your answers compared to other people that are close to you. I don't know, in my case, the example I'm going to use is my partner's answers and then also my mom's. And I will add that these aren't, I didn't actually have them do this activity. I plugged the numbers in based on what I think their answers might be. So I could be wrong, but for the purposes of this, and also if you have other family members who are resistant to doing the work around reclaiming the holiday, you can usually kind of guess based on history of what they would choose for each one of these. So I'll just say that you're totally welcome to ask them to do the Reclaim Your Holiday challenge as well, and to write down their answers, or even just to rate each theme where they would put it on a rating scale. But you can also, if they're resistant to that, just simply do it yourself. So that's what I have done. So for me, my answers have pretty much stayed the same. I did this last year, and my answers, I don't remember what my numbers were last year. I didn't keep that record. But for me, magic gets a 4, belonging gets a 5, generosity bumps down to 2, faith gets a 3, and tradition gets a 4. And so I'm going to turn my phone around and show you how to draw a grid that maps these out. And you can do it. I did mine on Google spreadsheets, but you can just do it on a piece of paper if you want to, or whatever's handy. You don't have to be fancy. I just did this because I knew I was going to be sharing it with you, and sometimes it's easier to see something when it's done on a screen than to have to read my scribbles or my whiteboard or something like that. And my whiteboards are all full right now too, by the way. So anyway, I'm going to flip my phone around and see if I can zoom in a little bit to show you. So on the vertical side of the grid, I have put the numbers from 0 to 5, which is what I asked you to rate yourself on. And then across the horizontal line, I have put each one of the themes. And then I plotted my answers. Again, it was a 4 for magic, a 5 for belonging, a 2 for generosity, a 3, I think, for faith, and a 4 for tradition. That's what my answers were. So that's how you plot it. And then once you have, I'm going to flip it back around again for a sec. Once you have that plotted, it helps you to kind of look and see. You've already done the work, like the deeper work of asking yourself these questions and coming up with these numbers. But now that you can see the numbers, and if you look at what the activities that you have been doing for the holidays for the past umpteen years, you can go back as far back in time as feels relevant to you, and look at where the activities might fall compared to where you rated the importance of that particular theme. So for example, let me think of one here. I didn't plan in advance. For me, we'll use generosity. It was my lowest score. And traditionally, growing up, presents were obviously, for most kids, presents are a big part of their holidays. And so for me, just like with anyone else, I loved to receive gifts, and I also loved to give them back in the days when I had a regular job and a regular income and could, knew how much money I was going to have. And I really still to this day, if I find a gift that's absolutely perfect for someone, I would love to give them that gift. But it's not on my top 5 love languages, which is a totally different conversation. But giving and receiving gifts is just not up there for me. It's stressful to try to find the right gifts. I have one friend who it is one of her love languages, and so I didn't meet her until probably the last 10 years or something. And prior to that, my friends already know I don't do gifts. We do activities or experiences or whatever. But it was kind of hard for me to because it's so important to her. I felt like I needed to reciprocate and to get her a gift, and I probably failed miserably 9/10 of the time. So anyway, I just, like, in my family, like I said, we don't really exchange gifts. We exchange I think I mentioned on that day that my sister puts together a food basket because she runs a farm. I usually try to craft something or make something or bake something. So, cookies or, I don't know, candies or something like that. Or I have made Christmas ornaments and things like that for the kids. But there's not a huge emphasis on gift giving in my family. So we don't do it. And generosity wise, again, if I had more money at this time of the year, then I would probably, on Giving Tuesday or whatever, although I don't really like that there's a specific day for that. I'd rather be generous year round, I guess, is what my point is, than to have an emphasis on it this time of year. So generosity for me is not important, and that's why it's rated that way. Now, if I already gave you an example of where that came in a conflict with me, with my friend who was very generous, and I felt like I had to match it and all that kind of thing. So it was out of alignment for me, right? To think about what kind of gifts to give. And so now I just don't. I just don't. I mean, I give the little things to my family, but there's some years, even then, if I'm super busy and I just don't have time, then that gets skipped for me. Faith is another one that, well, here, let me switch to look at this compared to other people in your family, and then I'll continue that. So let me flip this around. And I'm going to click on the Kristen and others. And then you can see this is myself, my mom, and my partner, and our different constellations that we end up with. So let's see. The blue is mine. My partner's is the red, and my mom's is the yellow. And again, I didn't ask them these questions. I made these up. But the one I was going to share with you about is the one that is the biggest difference between the three of us is faith. My partner was raised Christian and does not want to have anything to do with it anymore, especially with Christian nationalism becoming such a big thing. And my mom is still all about faith. That's the number one reason for her is the birth of Jesus, and that's a big piece of it for her. So as you could see, that could be a big conflict if we were all expected to do the same things. Now, my partner will surprise me every once in a while. He hasn't done this in a while, but he's actually asked to join us for midnight mass once or twice in our relationship, which I'm always like, what? But anyway, he has done that from time to time. But I like the reason for me, as you'll notice on this, that the tradition for me is pretty high. And so I like midnight mass because it's part of the family tradition. And so I go with my family. It isn't a conflict for me to go, even though my faith beliefs as an adult today are leaning more towards the solstice beliefs and the celebrating the light coming back and honoring the darkness and that sort of thing is more meaningful to me spiritually than celebrating the birth of Christ. I'm sorry if that offends any of you. But again, I like to go to midnight mass because my family goes and it's part of our tradition, right? So that's not as much of a conflict for me. Now, this other one in belonging, all three of us are, it's one of our highest. I'm not sure that my partner is actually as high as I put him on tradition. Some traditions, yes, and some not. But maybe that's why he joined in with the holiday mass, or maybe it's because of this belonging thing piece, right? Now, even though belonging is important to him, he also gets social anxiety. And so he doesn't like hanging out with my very large family for the length of time that we like to hang out with one another. And so it used to be, I used to feel like the only way that you can show me love is if you come to my holiday celebrations. But then I just ended up more stressed myself with trying to balance his needs with my needs, with the needs of the family, and it became more stressful. So now he's invited to come. He can come if he wants to, but he's not expected to show up. And so that takes that level of stress away from it. And, sure, I would love it if my partner loved all this stuff as much as I do, but quite frankly, I don't think that's realistic. I mean, if your partner does, that's great and good for you. But to me, it's just not that important. And he also, although he can be super generous on some occasions, he is not good at giving gifts over the holidays at all. So I never expect anything to come from him at all over the holidays. And again, every once in a while he surprises me, but it's not an expectation. So I've let go of the expectations of that. And magic, he doesn't really care about magic. But he does like, so for us, part of the magic for me, as I mentioned during that thing, is I love the holiday lights, right? I love putting that up. Well, for him, that falls under tradition, right? So again, we put up holiday lights, but we don't always have to do it exactly the same way. And sometimes we leave them up year round, that sort of thing. So that's, that is the way that to look at this, right, with you and your family, and look at the conflicts, and then also and see where they are, and see if there's something that you can do so that the conflicts don't happen. Now, you might have a very strong-willed family member who demands that you show up for a certain thing and do a certain way. But again, you are also a grown-up, and so you get to exercise your right to say no and put up boundaries and say, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that this year. And the first time you do that, trust me, the first time you do that, it's hard. I had, I could tell stories. I could tell lots of stories about times when I felt like I was letting down my mom in particular, but my entire family, because I put up boundaries around what I was going to do. There's one year, that I'd had a really busy year and the roads were icy, and I didn't feel like driving the 3 hours. This is back when I still lived in Seattle. I didn't feel like driving the 3 hours to be home for the holidays. And so I didn't. I stayed home and I had a lovely time just being, I think I actually cleaned behind the refrigerator and cleaned the stove and did all kinds of crazy things, right? But I enjoyed it. It was great. I didn't miss the family thing that particular year. Most years I choose to go. So again, you're a grown-up. You get to make your decisions. You get to say what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And the hard part is, of course, setting and sticking to the boundaries. And you're not going to get it perfect the first time. There's, no myth of perfection here. You're not going to get it perfect. It's going to feel super uncomfortable. It might make you feel more uncomfortable to not go along than it does to go along that first year. But again, those are choices that you get to make about what you want to do with your life and how you can reclaim your holidays. So first, you can look for overlaps and compromises, things that work for you that also work for a loved one. But you can also just exercise your right to say no and say, no, thank you. I don't want to do this. And then, always there's going to be consequences. Anytime we start wiggling out from underneath somebody else's ideas of what we should and shouldn't do, it's always uncomfortable, but you have the right to do that. So I hope that's helpful. Tomorrow I will be back with a final follow-up for you on how to put this all together and to really help you imagine the kind of holiday that you want to have in a lot of different ways. And yeah, so thanks for joining me for this past 6 days. And I'll see you tomorrow when I wrap it up completely with a beautiful guided meditation to help you visualize the type of holiday that you want. All right, take care. Bye.